and transcription as well, so.
Good, you're right on this.
Amy and I are going to attempt to try to play a Kelly 2.0, but it's going to be woefully, it might be, you know,
It's a Kelly
A- a sad-
0.5.
a sad imposter. Yes. So bear with us.
All right, very good. Roll call time. Let's go through the list as Kelly normally does. So Bradley Vinman,
Yeah, here, present.
Charlie Schlinger. Charlie is present, but his mic is off. Give him a second here,
How
but
about that? Is that better?
all
that
right,
works.
perfect. Christina Schroeder. Nope. Connie Boris,
Here.
pretty good. Daniel Brown,
Daniel Brown is here.
Daniel Burlingame. Nope. David Norwood. David Wynn.
He said he
Elizabeth
couldn't make it.
Hauptman. Okay, Elizabeth Hauptman. Okay. Gail Mansowitz. Gail Dugan. Jason Legowski.
I am here.
Excellent. Jeffrey Dutton. Jeremy Welsh. Joe Kang. Justin, I'm probably gonna mess this one up. Patak. Ken Harvey. Laura Ogar. Leah Dyga. Lynn McIntosh was on the phone. Margaret Brum. Mary Blanchard.
I'm here.
Matthew Farrer. Did I not see Matthew on? Okay, Mike Borman.
I'm here.
All right, perfect. Pam McQueer. Patty Baldwin. Rick Burns. Rick Radisky.
Here.
Robert Pataki. Sandy, present.
I'm here, and I
Shelley?
think Patty Baldwin is here, but she had her mic muted.
Mhm.
Okay, perfect, thank you. Shalene Thurston. Stacy Taylor.
I
Teresa.
thought
No.
Stacy was here.
Stacy's,
She might have just dropped off for a minute, but she was here, so mark her in.
Okay. Teresa's here. Tony Spagnola.
I'm here.
Bill Barnett
I'm here.
and Bill Krill. Oh, Bill. Okay. That's it.
nope, thank you. How many do we have? Well, you'll give me the count later. Okay, so I guess we'll just start with subcommittee. Oh, we were gonna do updates from communities. I'm sorry. Any updates people want to give on what's going on in their community? Mike Borman's got his hand up. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, I'm here in Rockford, Michigan, and just wanted to give people an update. Some people may know this already, but the old Wolverine Worldwide sole plant, where they used to make the soles of shoes back in the, 60s, 70s, 80s, whatever. The property has been bought by a local restaurant here in town called the Rockford Brewing Company. And from the documentation I've seen, it almost seems like they might be looking to build a brewery on that property. I don't know why they would settle on a blighted property like that with all the history and all the controversy about it. But apparently Wolverine sold them the land for $900,000 a couple months ago, and Rockford Brewing Company recorded an additional construction mortgage for $850,000. So they're spending $2 million on this this piece of land that used to be the Wolverine Sole plant. So what they eventually plan to do with it, I'm not sure yet, but it's just kind of curious, I guess. Not
Wow.
good news or bad news, just sort of curious, I guess.
All right. Thank you, Mike. Glad you're here. Any other community updates?
I've got one here.
Go ahead, Daniel.
Yeah,
Is that who was talking?
it was. Yeah, so actually a couple. So because we've had, I think, 5 weeks since our last meeting, or 4.5. We had our hexavalent chromium forum, which was centered on the Huron River watershed. Of course, we got a lot of questions about PFAS during that as well, since it's the same polluter that was responsible for both. Phil Ardroff took the lead from Eagle in providing an update on that. We had Yusuf Rabi, state representative, provide some perspective on what he thinks needs to happen in terms of policy. We had other folks joining, providing updates. It was, I thought, an informative discussion. I don't think there were any questions that were unexpected, but just wanted to let folks know that, that was held, and that was recorded and is available through our website. We learned a lot from that process, so happy to talk about that more as people want to offline. The other update I have is unfortunate, and I wish it was happier. But we got word back that the NPDES permit was accepted by Eagle for the Wixom wastewater treatment plant. And there were some small concessions that were made in requiring Tri-Bar, who's the polluter now that's polluted in multiple different ways, our watershed. But it really feels like a rubber stamp approval. And I would be lying if I didn't say that, my confidence in the process was shaken in seeing the response to the city of Ann Arbor's criticisms of the draft permit. The city of Ann Arbor had everything right in this case. They were right to criticize where they did. They had their legal team, of course, look at it. Other environmental attorneys have looked at this and basically agree with what Ann Arbor was saying. And there's really, I won't go into the wonky details, but I can provide that to folks if people want it. And Ryan Stanton for MLive did a nice summary of what's in the permit and what Ann Arbor's complaint was. So I can provide that link too. But fundamentally, what I want to raise is that we often talk about trying to give Eagle the tools they need so that they can exercise their full enforcement authority. We talk about how we can advocate for policies to allow Eagle and state regulators to hold polluters accountable. And we try to be proactive on that and try to be helpful in that space. But this was really a case of Eagle not exercising their full authority and really failing to even recognize their full authority. And there are lots of justifications for that. But this was, we often talk about trying to get the state more tools to hold polluters accountable, and this was the state not using the tools that it had available. It was really disappointing. So I'm pretty unhappy with Eagle's response on this specifically. And I just wanted to get that out for people to take a look at and really reflect on it. This was a moment where Eagle could have required a repeat offender in Tri-Bar. They could have held Tri-Bar accountable. They could have simply rejected Wixom wastewater treatment plant's permit or requested revisions, and they didn't do any of that. It was just a failure. So I'll stop there.
Do you have the link or whatever? Can you put that in the chat so people can look at this more? All right. On that cheerful note, I'll connect with you on that, Daniel. Teresa, you have your hand up?
Yes, thank you so much. Community update. In our meetings, we had been talking about community not being educated on PFAS and PFOs, the standards, the locations, and as was just mentioned, the power and authority that Eagle has to enforce, regulate, and create change. So we had our first educational series, PFAS 101, in which Tony and Sandy and Connie Boris and Rob Kerr were guests. And it was a successful event. The community had no idea. 90% of the community that attended had never heard of PFAS. So I think we're doing a good job in our proactiveness by going out and starting our public education. So we're going to continue, and we hope to be able to do it in other places. We had Eagle in present, we had industry present, and we had the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services present, as well as community orgs. So I think that we're on the right track to build a relationship and further the education of the community. So thank you guys for allowing me to share.
Thank you, Teresa. That was an amazing event. That was fun. Any other community updates?
Yeah, this is Jason representing Hull. It was in the one of the MPART updates a week or two ago, but there are 2 new sites in our area, the Lucy Road landfill and I guess the adjacent Regal, former Regal recycling facility. They are adjacent properties, but there's new assessments going on there to try to identify the source of PFAS there. And for those who know the area, it's kind of east of D19, west of Latson Road, and north of 96. So two new sites there on the list in the area.
All right. Stacy Taylor, you have your hands up. And you're off mute, but I can't hear you. Anybody here?
Nope.
Sorry, Stacy.
Keep trying.
All right. I think we're going to move on, Stacy. See if you can, I don't know, maybe call in or don't use Elon Musk as your internet provider or something here. I don't know. All right. Other community updates? Okay, let's go on to the agenda. Mary Blanchard, are you here? Do you want to start with the membership? Oh, yeah, the membership committee documentation.
Yep, last month we introduced the document where we were trying to attract new members, but during the course of that discussion, I think it was Joe Kang who first had brought up the fact that members actually need to feel a purpose for being engaged. And so we started a discussion regarding the fact of maybe there's not enough activity to keep people interested. And so we created this document and had asked people to review it. And I sent it again yesterday, and I think Kelly sent it again today. So we are just wondering about other members' opinions on this. You know, we're not looking necessarily to vote on it or anything else. We're just asking for people's opinions.
All right, ideas, people? Is there not enough to do? Are we too boring? Do we need a theme song or something here?
Theme song would be great, Sandy.
Or is it just something that, I mean, I don't know.
I had actually, when I sent it out yesterday, had asked people who were not able to attend today to, send in their ideas, but I did not hear from anybody. Don't know if Daniel or Joe heard, because I did include their emails as well in that document. But either way, it was just an idea we came up with, and we're putting it out there for people if they wanted to comment on it.
Go ahead. Was there more comments there? Joe? Anyone? Okay. I guess if people have comments about that, I'd like them to get them to Mary if there's ideas of how to get more community members involved. I mean, I don't think we can create work for people to do or things. But Teresa, you got an idea?
Yeah, Sandy, after the screening and after the workshop, people asked how could they get involved. So I was approached by 3. So if we could get a link or something that they could go into more information, I can start sending it out and to my listserv.
Okay, good idea. Is there a link for this, Abby?
It's on
I know when you go
our-
to the MPART website, it gets a little confusing to find it. So
Yeah, it's on the COG calendar, or it's on the MPART calendar. But yeah, it's there. We can definitely get a link for it.
okay,
That shouldn't be too hard.
all right. Okay, anything else from membership then, Mary? Or anyone else?
Well, just that as part of this document at the very end, we did have this, and I'll read it, so it might stir some people memories. As a starting point, we suggest discussion regarding making a formal recommendation from the COG on a particular issue. COG members should draft and finalize an open memo to MPART and state officials. Number 2, the COG will vote on officially presenting the memo to the state. If the vote passes, COG members and state officials will be encouraged to circulate the memo publicly within their communities and throughout their private and professional networks. 3, if sufficient action is not taken in a timely manner by state agencies, the COG may hold another vote to clarify that position and encourage prompt action by state officials. This recommendation should include a clear deadline for a response from state officials. This recommendation, as with all COG materials, will be made public. The COG cannot direct the private actions of its members, and it is possible that COG members will pursue action unrelated to formal COG activities on more aggressive timelines or in different ways. Once a deadline passes and state officials have or have not responded, COG members will review the response. Finding the response adequate, COG members will continue to provide advice on the issue during COG meetings. B, finding the response inadequate or absent, COG members may vote to provide public notification to the governor's office. Such notification will likely include a summary of the problem, a summary of the COG's recommendations, and a summary of shortfalls within the state's response. Providing direct notification to the governor's office comports with the charter and the spirit of the COG. Depending on the governor's response and after a predetermined amount of time set by COG members, the public notification may be released to the media. We did discuss this after the fact between the membership group and decided that we should have a differentiation between releasing it to the public and to the governor. So we felt that the governor needed to be notified as well as Eagle beforehand, before it is released to the public. So that is where we have it so far. Thank you. Sandy, you're muted now.
Sorry. Someone on the phone has their hand up. I'm not sure who that is. Anybody know who that is?
This is Lynn. Can you hear me?
Yep, go ahead, Lynn.
Okay, yeah, I pulled over. I don't drive and talk, so I'm safe, everybody. Okay, so I'm a little confused. I thought that this, whatever Mary read, was related to the engaging the public subcommittee. I don't see how this fits with the membership committee. Or did I miss something?
Anyone on membership want to talk about that?
I don't want to jump in front of Mary because I think she's been she's said this eloquently, I think, in the last meeting, but it came naturally out of the discussion on membership as we were talking through recruiting new members and then some of the reasons that members had declined or atrophied over time, why we'd seen dropping engagement. And it related back to, so the first point that Mary said, is just trying to find sort of content-oriented things for them to do. So something where they feel productive. But then the other point is, basically what is the role of the COG? What agency can we actually have on all these discussions if it feels like we're just spinning our wheels? So
I see.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's related to what hasn't really moved forward yet with the public notification. It's kind of somewhat related to that, isn't it?
It could be. So we were having this discussion actually before the last meeting. So we were thinking just generally, like, what would be the process for making any generic recommendation, and basically just getting that down ahead of time so that we're being proactive.
Okay. All right. I didn't understand that how that was being differentiated, but now I understand. Okay.
All right.
I guess I didn't, yeah, that's fine. I got it now. Thank you. I think it's great that you're including it. Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Lynn.
You're welcome. I'm going off now.
Oh, okay. Any other comments about that? That's a pretty big piece to have in there. So I guess I'd really like people to take a look at that so we can kind of make that our plan or policy and talk about that at the next meeting. I know people just got it and it's a pretty long document. So I would move that that's what we do.
Well, actually, we did send it out last month, but it just came the day of that last meeting. So that's why we sent it again.
Okay. All right. Anything else then from membership?
I don't think so.
All right. Website review committee. Anyone here from that group? I don't think. No, maybe.
Well, this is Brad Benman. I'm on that committee. We did not meet today. We have been exchanging some ideas back and forth, but I don't think we're quite ready to share that with the full group at this point.
Okay, great, thank you. And Dave Wynn sent me an email on the prevention committee. I think he would like to have the COG talk about how we update that information, is what he said, and how we keep the information for the prevention information on the website current. So I'm going to let him, we're supposed to set up another meeting about that, I think this week sometime. So that brings us to the Engaging the Public Subcommittee, Rick.
Okay. All right, I sent around a draft, and let me share the screen. Can everybody see it? Okay. We decided to work off of the original document that the group prepared last year and update it. So there's some changes to the document to make it current, like with the number of PFAS sites, and then sort of a little summary of how we got together and what we decided. Just made that a little bit more current, and then we wanted to include the public notification for residential wells in the document. So we put that in the second heading on page 2, what constitutes an initial public notice. And we added the text, and I'll go ahead and read it. It's between pages 2 and 3. It says, Eagle/MDHHS should allocate the necessary resources to provide public notification of potentially affected private well owners located within a 1-mile radius when analytical data becomes available of PFAS groundwater contamination that exceeds the Michigan drinking water standards, or if Eagle becomes aware of a historical or current release of PFAS that has a high likelihood of contaminating groundwater. Eagle or the local health department should notify potentially impacted well owners by letter or home visit within 2 weeks of data availability of PFAS contamination above the drinking water standards, or the presence of a significant historical or current release. We encourage Eagle and the local health departments to work with local units of government or county GIS offices to help identify parcel owners that may be impacted. And notices should include a brief summary of the following. And we list what the notification should include, the basis for the notification, summary of historical records and sampling, type of facility, what type of PFAS chemicals are involved. And then some of these C and D, they may not know, so we don't want Eagle to wait to get this information. This is just information that should be provided if available. Obviously, if it's a new site or they're just starting the investigation, they won't know the extent of contamination, but in that case, they should explain that the investigation is just starting and provide some kind of a timeline. You know, we're going to be investigating over the next 3 months or something. Next steps, which would be the sampling schedule, and then any steps for drinking water treatment that are being done. Then information on residential well testing. So we'd like some information in that notification letter to direct residents to information and expertise about how to sample their own well and get their well tested if they're concerned, and then contact information for state and local officials involved. That's pretty much those bullets were there in the past. I just changed them a little bit, A through F, some of the wording in there, but we're essentially recommending that Eagle take whatever steps necessary and work with local health departments, units of government, and county GIS offices to help identify the parcel owners. And it's simply because that these sites, it's a public health issue, and whenever there's a public health issue, notifying the public of that issue is, you know, it's more important than going out and identifying, you know, wells and things like that. It's the first step is to notify the public that there's a contamination issue with the drinking water, and that should be the focus of the investigation, is to do that notification. So anyway, I've got this document. I'd like everybody to look at it, and if it's approved, if the membership of the COG approves it, we can take a vote next month. We're also going to meet and potentially talk about, or potentially provide some language on the surface water issues that are associated with public notification. We don't differentiate. Well, we talk about, in this case, where public water wells are impacted, but we also have language in the policy and guiding principles about notifying when surface water contamination is present too. So we want to provide some guidance on that. That's a difficult topic with some of the sites like the Huron River extending for multiple square miles and multiple townships. So we want to give some thought to that. But anyway, that's our first cut at providing some more concrete guidance to Eagle about the notification process, and can open it up to any questions or comments by the COG.
Teresa, you have your hand up.
Yes. Excuse me. I thank you for this opportunity to speak. I'm not on the subcommittee, but I wanted to know how this would relate to urban areas. Okay, I'm in an urban area. We do have a PFAS problem, and we talk about surface water, groundwater, and well water, but what about the urban areas that are being impacted?
Well, that's the next step would be if there's a urban area with storm drains or some kind of a, like Flint River running through. If there's a surface water body, we want to address what the notification should look like. So that's coming. We thought we'd do the public health piece first for drinking water, and then we're gonna. That's a little more straightforward. So but we're gonna certainly look at that in the future.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Tony Spaniola.
Thank you, Rick. Thank you. Thank you and the subcommittee for your continuing work on this. I take my hat off to you and appreciate all the efforts that you've made on this. I'm wondering if it might be possible for you or perhaps someone between now and the next meeting to run a red line showing the additions and changes that this document makes to the original one. It might be easy, might make the review of that easier for the group.
Yeah, I have a track change version in Word that I can send out. It's Charlie had some comments, and it's got several iterations. It's a little on the messy side, but I can circulate that for sure, and you can see what I've changed. Some of the language in there, it said fully notify the public, and I don't know what fully notify means. I don't consider myself even fully notified on the science, so I kind of took some of those words out because they're hard to define. So, but anyway, yeah, I can send that track change version out to everybody.
That would be great. Thank you. I'd appreciate it. I also have another comment, and I don't know if it's appropriate here or later. If it's to come later, well, we can discuss it then. But I'm impressed by the work that's being done. And as some of you know, I asked that Mr. Keatley's commitment correspondence be sent around earlier today. And my question, Rick, either to you or perhaps to the Eagle representatives who are on the call, there's a pretty clear commitment that's been made by Eagle. From my vantage point, it appears that all the work is being done by in this instance, the subcommittee. And I'm wondering if Eagle has appointed or designated a point person who's going to be responsible on the Eagle side for helping to implement and assuring that the commitments are implemented in conjunction with the COG. Can anybody answer that question? And if it hasn't been done, I'd ask that it be done.
Andy, did you want to take a first crack at that, or you want me to jump in?
Go for it.
Somebody make sure that's on the record, okay?
It's being recorded. It's being recorded. Yeah, I think we are continuing to work our way through this as Aaron Keatley said. We agree in principle, definitely agree in principle. We're still working our way through what this means, how this could get implemented, how it can get implemented incrementally, which is what we're doing. You know, trying to adopt this principle and work through it incrementally. This is, you know, these are pretty big changes, and you're talking about many, many programs, many, many divisions, many, many people. So, you know, MPART doesn't have necessarily that supreme authority to require all changes all at once. And so I think we've been debating a lot of those particular key pieces of how we would do this and what's the best process for that. And what we, you know, frankly have the resources to be able to do efficiently. And so I think that one of, as we were discussing the draft that Rick had sent around, one of our discussion points was, well, once you guys are kind of done massaging it, then let's sit down with the subcommittee and talk through some of the stuff. Maybe before you go to re-vote on it, I don't know, but I think that was some of the conversation that we were talking about, is having potentially an in-person meeting with the subgroup and working through some of the questions we had on this. So, Andy, did you want to add more?
Yeah, I think I'll say a couple things. I think incremental doesn't need to be protracted or prolonged. I mean, I think if, you know, the subcommittee is going to take up a topic and keep moving things forward, we will, you know, participate in that conversation and respond along the way. You know, there may be a point where these documents need to identify what we have what we can implement tomorrow and what we can implement, you know, down the line, but I don't think we're to that point yet. The other thing I'd say is I'm willing, if the committee would welcome it, and of course, won't be offended if I'm not welcome. I'm happy to sit in those meetings and discuss the issues with you and kind of give on the spot feedback and say, well, I think that will be well received, and that'll be a hurdle, and maybe, you know, some of the hurdles get left in there and some of them get pulled out, but I'm happy to be a part of the conversation all along the way. And I think Amy, Abby, and Kelly feel the same way, but it might move the conversation along faster if we're exchanging feedback in sort of real time as we move down this path. Yeah. But I think what the language Rick read is a really positive development in that it kind of gives us something that's easy to discuss, and easy to, you know, if the COG puts its stamp on it, we know what it means, and we can say yes or yes but or whatever it is. But it's you know, I think in that case we've kind of covered that topic pretty well in recent months, so I don't think it's going to be any particular amount of work. So
yeah, and I'd like to see maybe I don't want to say a pilot study, but, you know, the next time this comes up, you know, we talked about potentially talking with the township and seeing if the tax authority can go ahead and, you know, do the mapping for you and identification, or they may pass it on to the county GIS. That was Mary's suggestion. But between those two resources, they're the ones that know who lives where, and you know, your staff can start looking at well logs while somebody else, you know, pulls that information for you. So, you know, we're just trying to offload that a little bit, just getting the names together. I mean, you obviously want to be involved with actually going and talking to the people, but, you know, just, I'd rather see somebody, you know, looking up well logs and information rather than going through the plat book and, you know, all that stuff. So if that can save you any time, you know, we'd like to see that. Just and again, you know, the concentrations are going down in the standards, and it seems to be targeting, you know, young children and pregnant women, and we want to get that notification out the best way we can.
Rick, I don't want to bore everybody else, but I am still trying to set up a time with a former colleague, townships, for the two of us to talk about how they might be able to pitch in and make things go faster. So I'm in a phone tag with him.
Okay.
This is Tony.
And just for everybody's benefit, Andy and I talked about this, and he's going to try and set up a meeting with the Michigan Township Association of Townships to do a little presentation about this, and they may have some suggestions too. So, yeah, it's just a point, and we're trying to get the notification out a little sooner because of public health, and yeah, I'd like, I certainly value the time, going through well logs and trying to find out, the depths of the wells. I mean, those are all real important things to do. But I think if somebody else can help you get that list together, that would be really good.
This is Tony. If I might just circle back. Rick. I'm assuming, but I guess I don't want to assume that Andy's offer to sit in on the subcommittee meetings and meet regularly with you is something that is acceptable to the subcommittee. And if it is, I just want to make sure we formalize that so that everybody else knows what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, if we want to have a subcommittee meeting and Abby and Andy want to attend it, I'm totally fine with that. I mean, we're not going to be deciding any business. We're just, we want to try and float our ideas around, and before we, commit anything, or if we have a draft that comes out of that, we're going to certainly bring it back to the whole COG. So.
For sure. Yeah, I just think it's important that there's a dialogue so that the subcommittee and the COG aren't going off in one direction and Eagle's going off in another direction. And then we end up having disparate views of and expectations. And so I think it'd be a really good process.
Yeah.
I'd love to do something in person and actually bring everybody together. So I don't know if that's possible. I'm not sure where all of the subcommittee lives or wants to meet, but if we could do something in person, I think that would even help, push that process even faster.
Cool. All right, Mary, you have your hand up?
I just wanted to point out, especially for the new members, that if anybody would like to join any of the subcommittees, they are more than welcome.
That was a shameless plug to sign up for at least one, if not more, committees.
And I just want to say too that we've had 2 people on the engaging the public that are no longer on the committee, so we could certainly use more people involved with our little subcommittee. So.
Yes. Lynn, I hope you're not driving. You have your hand up.
Yes, I'm situated now. I'm warm and cozy inside. I think maybe my question's been answered. I don't know if it's my brain or not, but I thought that we had already sent this document and it was already voted on unanimously. So Rick, is this just like a draft 2 of that? And then are we going to take another vote on it, or what?
Well,
That's what I'm just a little confused about.
Yeah, I decided to work on the original document. I mean, that is correct. We voted on it, but there was no information in there about what public notification is and the timeline. So rather than have a second document, I decided to work with that one and just update it, provide more definition. When we wrote that, it was agreed that it was going to be more aspirational. And I think we need to be a little more specific and provide some guidance like on the timeline. So it is the same document. It's just we're doing a second version.
Okay, that's a good distinction between aspirational and hands-on practical. Okay. Well, I may just wake up tomorrow morning, Rick, and decide I want to join your committee. So I'll leave you hanging on that. Okay.
All right. So like I said, we had some people that are no longer on the committee. So if there's additional members that join, please do.
Okay, thanks, Rick.
All right, any other comments on that document? I know we're dragging that out, but I really do feel like we're making some progress on the whole issue of public notification, and we're getting it honed down, so I'm hopeful with that. Okay, hearing no more comments on that. I think that's it for our subcommittees. Abby, do you have a update?
I have some. So the first one is, as Jason said, we have 2 new sites. So they're one up here, that's the Haywire landfill, and then the Lucy Road landfill and Regal Recycling, which is a area of interest. And so both of those have been added to the MPART website. And let me give you my update with that. That is both of them, we've gone through that, you know, that process we have for communication protocol. Both of them we looked at for any potential res wells. We've looked at them. One has one well that was sampled. We're still waiting for results on the Lucy Road offsite. We've got one additional business and one additional well we're still trying to get access to. That's it for that. Both the Lucy Road landfill and the Regal Recycling, which are very close to each other next door, are we had a call with local officials and have put that one up on the website. The Haywire landfills up in the UP. That one had no res wells in the area, down gradient or side gradient. And again, local officials and legislators, you know, didn't ask us any questions. And so that one went on the website. So I think this is getting to be a standard process. The other couple of things I have for you are Great Lakes PFAS Summit. Hopefully everybody has already signed up for that. That is on, and I don't know if it got put on our banner or not. We didn't put that on our banner yet, Amy. But we do have, we can put the, if people haven't signed up yet, December 5th, 6th, and 7th. It's 2.5 days of very technical. So it's not a, it's technical, in the weeds type of PFAS. You know, if you love your data, you're going to love this stuff. So really good presentations from a variety of different topics from across the world. So far, we have over 500 registrants. We have people that have registered from Albania and Austria and Canada and Mexico and the US, obviously. So I think we're up to 6 different countries already. And then, and I would expect that we will get a lot more. So I have gotten commitment from EPA's PFAS Council to have someone come speak to us on the opening day and give us an update on the PFAS roadmap from EPA. So, and I am expecting some other announcements from them here in the coming weeks. So maybe it'll be at the PFAS conference, but you never know. They're kind of closed-lipped about when they're going to do things. So I'm expecting some updates from them. So that'll be a good one. Please sign up. That is on our website. And so Amy, I don't know if you can find the link for that one. We can dump it in the chat. We are also putting together what we call our fast facts for MPART. We try to do an accounting like of all the things that we've done over the last year, how many wells we've sampled, how many sites have been added, all of those kinds of things. It's going to be a little bit more expansive this year. We're going to probably have about 4 or 5 pages of fast facts from MPART. That's being finalized, and I'm hoping to have it done by the time we get to the PFAS Summit so that we can give you guys that as well. And it'll be for everything that we've done in fiscal year 21-22 in that fiscal year. Our work group pages are getting updated for the website. We're again trying to get those done in time for the PFAS conference and our FAQs. We did some special effort to try to get all of the Southeast Michigan stuff updated for Teresa and Connie for the work that was being done, or the um, uh, public meeting that you guys just went to on what, November 2nd, I think, was that the date of that one? And so those got updated, but we're working our way through them. So we're up to 230 sites now. Our AFFF pickup and collection program is now in phase 3. So we are picking up, I think we've got about another 4,000 gallons of firefighting foam to be picked up around the state. I think when you add up all 3 phases, we're somewhere around 60,000 gallons of AFFF that have been picked up from fire departments and airports. So, you know, every gallon that we can prevent from being used is something else we don't have to clean up later. So well worth it. And many, many other states are starting to do that as well. One of the other things that we did is we did do some local health department training with local health departments from around the state. That was also November 2nd, and had many different health departments participating, educating them on PFAS, educating them about what that collaboration structure looks like, what it means to get a new PFAS site, and how we need their cooperation right from the start to identify the well logs, identify the homeowners, help us go door to door. So we talked a lot about that process with them. And, you know, some of the public health action plan stuff that we do from the DHHS side of things. So that was a really good conversation with public health departments, local health departments from around the state. So because there's been just as much turnover in those departments as everybody else lately. So that was very fruitful. And then just want to again do another shout out to Teresa for putting together her PFAS educational tour for Marcus and Amy Peterson to go down to on the 2nd. So we're looking forward to participating in your next meeting for, I think you guys said April of 2023. So I think those are all the big things, unless anybody has a specific questions that I've forgotten.
Any questions for Abby? I did have one question I had. At the last meeting, Abby, you gave us the quick update on the, I think it was, is it Marionette or wherever up in the UP that had the fire?
Yep.
Is there any update on, like, wasn't there a big PFAS spill or something, or firefighter foam being stored there?
We are this close, and maybe Amy Peterson wants to jump on. We're this close to finishing the write-up to put it on the MPART website. We were just looking at the samples we've taken. The fire started October 6th. Is that right, Amy? And the fire didn't get out till like almost October 18th, 20th. It was quite a long time for the fire and all the embers to be completely out. But they have, the fire's out. They have, I think, started to process the 5 million gallons worth of fire water, run it through treatment, test it, and then discharge it out into the river after it's been tested. Ongoing testing of both surface water and drinking water. And so far, none of the surface water, although we did have elevated levels of 6.2 FTS, none of the surface water or drinking water has exceeded any of the standards that we have. So Amy, what else am I missing?
I think Sandy mentioned the AFFF. So you might have seen some pictures where there's some like partially melted containers and some of the stuff had, leaked onto the ground. So they vacked up all the stuff that was on the ground. And if they had containers that were, partially melted or whatever, they apparently put those into new totes and probably overpacked them and, followed the regular waste, procedures to get rid of those. And then there's, of course, a whole bunch of metal that they've got to, sort through. They took some of the paper waste to 2 different landfills. So it's all getting all, cleaned up, from that perspective. The write-up that we're working on will include some of the aerial photos during the fire. and probably the couple weeks afterwards that will show the treatment tanks and, and things like that. So, making a lot of progress, and I think our sampling efforts are, hopefully going to get down to, I think we're doing twice a week this week, and I think we're going to start doing every other week sampling fairly soon. Again, because the numbers keep looking good as far as water quality standards and drinking water standards look.
Great.
And Mike, Jerry, as far as the fire water, has that all been run through treatment yet? Do you know?
No, it has not been. They continue to do it in batch modes.
Okay.
They'll treat it and batch it, test it, and then when they get the data back with our permission, then it'll be discharged.
Okay.
So it's being done in batches.
Perfect.
And yes, Sandy, they did have releases of a triple F containing PFAS. It was the newer formula, which would be 6,2-FTS, and then also the other compound would be PFHXA. Those would be the two that were mostly found in that. Then they also had firefighting foam that we were told did not have PFAS in it. So hopefully we'll be able to get into the building eventually. It's unsafe. It's not structurally sound at the moment, to get a better idea of what really was in there. We have documents that were provided to us that supposedly had the contents of the warehouses, but day to day, forklifts go in, forklifts go out. So yeah, so it's being worked on, and we do keep track of what's going on, and hopefully we'll have more information. They're still trying to figure out, of course, why did this fire happen? How come it didn't get put out? Allegedly, there was a sprinkler system. I don't know if there was or wasn't. So we continue working with the companies, and we keep in touch with EPA and the state of Wisconsin also on this issue, because the river does act as the border between Wisconsin and Michigan. And unfortunately, the water doesn't care which side of the river it's on. So we're working with Wisconsin to make sure that both the population of Marinette and Menominee are protected.
Well, thank you. Thank you for the update. That's good to know. Any other questions for Abby then? All right. Oh, wait, there's a Connie Boris. I think that's your hand up.
Yeah, just a real quick question for Eagle. Was any of the soil in that UP Peninsula fire, was that PFAS contaminated? And if it was that transported to a landfill that is not properly lined with geomembrane? Because you could just
so the
transferring PFAS from one location to another.
So the answer is that there likely was soil contamination. How much, we don't know yet, because they haven't got to that phase of the investigation where they did build a pit area to store fire water. After that was transferred to other big containers that were lined, that area was scraped for now, just to get some of that off, and then they put gravel on it for the winter, and those soils did go to a landfill. I do not know currently which landfill those went to. Any active landfill would in whether it was in Wisconsin. There's one of the problems too. I don't know if it went to a Wisconsin landfill or a Michigan or both. However, if it's an active landfill, that means it is being monitored by Materials Management Division in the Upper Peninsula if it's on the Michigan side.
Okay, thanks.
They will be generating plenty of more dirt, Connie. There's no doubt about it. They've got a lot more cleanup to do up there. But with winter coming, they're just trying to get done what they can before however many feet of snow fall on them.
Ugh, what a mess. All right, any other questions about that or for Abby? So the next item on the agenda was to talk about the Falk Road landfill site in Holly. And I know Mary and I talked briefly about it yesterday. Stacy was on here, but for some reason, Stacy, I don't know if Stacy's still on here. So Mary, do you want to talk about just some of the questions, or Stacy or anyone, or do you want me to, or?
Yeah, I just first off want to thank you and also Kelly from MPART and Kim Etheridge from Eagle for coming out and actually participating in a meeting and a tour of our area so that they could actually see what we've been talking about for months now. I guess maybe I will turn it over to you, Sandy, as to what your impressions were just from that day, and then I could fill in after that.
You know what I learned, I was, I guess, surprised, but not surprised, is it seems like we have a lot of sites in the state where PFAS is one piece of a bigger conglomerate of a mess environmentally. And so it gets citizens, I think, confused why there isn't a more robust response or something. It seemed like my understanding was there was really one well that tested high for PFAS. It's near a landfill. There's concern that it could be contaminating water elsewhere, but it hasn't shown up yet. There's concern it's contaminating the lake. And I don't remember if the water had been tested in the lake or the fish. Abby's shaking her head yes. So it had been tested, but it's not there.
Yeah, they're very low concentrations, as I recall, and I don't have the numbers off the
Or
top
the
of my
fish
head.
had a different advisory, like for mercury, but there's also all these other chemicals that are spilling out, and that has people worried. Then they get frustrated, I think, that MPART PFAS doesn't respond to it, but really it's this big like soup of ucky stuff. That's the clinical term. That's the scientific term that Rick or other Charlie would use. And I don't, you know, part of what I learned there that was really interesting is how many dang divisions there are at Eagle. And none of that made sense to me or anybody else at the table. So just as a community member, it would be great if at some point, we don't need to do it tonight or at any time, but there could be an easy way to understand who does what at Eagle and who to contact about this and how to get everybody to talk. That seemed to be the biggest problem, is citizens didn't feel like every division talked to each other. Would that be fair to say, Mary or Stacy?
That is excellent. That is exactly what we have been finding. I think we've been making the request to have a meeting, even in our town hall meeting that was held in May of 2021 with MPART. That was my first comment to them, was that we appreciated the fact that they were holding the town hall for us, but we needed to have more meetings to deal with all of our issues, not just the PFAS. And that has not happened here. Unfortunately, we are still waiting for a meeting. The only process that we've heard of is through our politicians. There's only been 2 meetings in 2 years or 3 years, and 1 meeting that was held in 2022, but it was only dealing with the dump. And the prior meeting was held in February of 2020, and that was only dealing with the manufactured home community. So for those people who don't know, we do have a contaminated dump that's been known since 1993 with 11 contaminants, 8 of which were above the MDNR cleanup level, mostly heavy metals. In 2020, actually December 2019, citizens discovered that the monitoring wells on the dump had not been tested in 25 years. That dump ran from 1920 to 1970. And I know there's just so many details and stuff that people probably don't need to know. But we are very concerned with all of the issues, especially since now we have known 2 sections of the Shiawassee River that have tested with PFAS in the fish. We have 2 neighboring lakes to this site that now have fish that are qualified to have a fish advisory for PFAS, but the advisory is going to be issued for mercury because that is of greater concern. And as we discussed in the engaging the public subcommittee, we feel that not only should the advisory be given for mercury, but residents and other community members need to know that there's PFAS there as well, especially because of the fact that it does affect children, pregnant women, and elderly people differently than the regular part of the population. So the other thing I would mention is the fact that in addition to discovering that the monitoring wells had not been tested in 25 years, citizens also raised our own funds to test 4 homes when we made multiple requests that Eagle, MDHHS, and Oakland County Health test additional homes, and that was turned down. So then we had taken that on. And then the last thing that we did was in March of this year, we also took testing performed by Denise Trabick Pointer, the toxicologist who's been working with us for 2 years. And we had done testing at 3 different sites off of the dump site, and also soil testing on the north edge of the dump site. And every single one of the tests that we took came back with PFAS in it. And we did turn those over to Eagle RRD and Eagle Water Resource Division. And I have not heard anything from Water Resource Division if they plan to follow up on any type of testing to do with the manufactured home community or the discharge site or the Shiawassee River regarding that. And I guess I will end there. I think Stacy had her hand up.
Hold on here. Okay, so Stacy, I want you to go ahead, but what I was hoping we could talk about is what are we going to do with these situations where it's kind of this conglomerate of toxins, not just PFAS, you know what I mean? Like, what's the role of the COG or MPART with that versus is there a similar thing that Eagle does that provides a coordinated effort for those communities? So we have some way to help those communities. So if that makes sense. Go ahead, Stacy.
Unfortunately, we're not hearing you though, Stacy.
You're off mute, but you're muted. You're quiet. Stacy, I think we have a microphone problem. So Abby, maybe you can.
Maybe she can get out and come back in and try it again too. Sometimes leaving the meeting and coming back in helps that situation.
Yeah, you got to click that join with the computer thing.
So
is there Abby, do you know, is there a way that is there a coordinated effort outside of MPART? Stacy on the video.
There are sites, it depends on, there's not necessarily a standard process. It really depends on how the site evolves or how the situation evolves with one of those. That sometimes it might come in as an environmental justice issue and get coordinated through that forum to bring the divisions together to kind of speak with one voice. Sometimes it might come in through a tribal issue, or it might come in through a PFAS issue, or it might come in through a water resource. It kind of depends on which division has kind of the lead role as to how they bring in the other divisions to speak as part of their meetings. And so part of it gets to what you're talking about with which divisions do what. Every division has a different program that they have to implement. And sometimes, we don't always know what's going on in surface water. We don't always know what's going on in drinking water. And so that cross communication is important for everybody to keep in touch with. But there is not, Andy, can you think of any process that we've got for centrally coordinating these types of situations? I think they're done pretty much organically as the need arises.
You'd be more aware than I would, Abby, or maybe Travis or others on the call would. I know more from a vantage point of our participating in our review of our enforcement programs. So I know there's a process for determining who's the lead on those issues at the district office level, but that's what I'm aware of, and not in a situation like this. But I see Travis came on board, so maybe he can help us out here.
Yeah, thanks for summoning me, Andy, and just want to make sure everyone can hear me all right. I'm using a different mic than I normally can, so can I get a thumbs up? Okay.
Little faint. You could speak just a skosh louder.
I'll lean forward and project. So, so for folks who don't know me, Travis Bosco, legislative liaison with the department, but a lot of issues come across my desk. So Stacy, Mary, I think we've met previously over with that meeting that Senator Johnson convened. So, but I have a lot of insight into this site, and I've sent a lot of information over to your legislative offices when they've inquired with me. So, I think particularly with sites like this one, where it's a pretty clear site that originates from, or it's an issue that originates from a site of contamination, like a former dump. In this case, it's a dump. It's not a former lined landfill. For the most part, that's really an RRD lead, right? So you all have Kim Etheridge down there who worked through her division process and has secured some state money to do investigation on some of those results that Mary was talking about, right? We know there are concerns in the soil about PFAS, so that's where Kim is investing some of that state contaminated site money, is to investigate those results and see, is there this clear connection from the landfill to the soil, and then how does that bear out with those surface water concerns that y'all address? So I'll say to a couple points that Sandy brought up. I mean, I think a lot of our sites that we talk about, contaminated sites, PFAS is one constituent amongst many that we're dealing with there. So I don't think this is necessarily atypical, especially when you're talking about a former landfill or a former dump, where it's a lot of stuff that could be leaking before we started licensing those and constructing them in a modern way. But again, I think, the staff lead, like in RRD, will bring on the other divisions as needed. But for the most part, RRD has all the regulations and an investigatory power that they need for something like this, right? So there's criteria that says, you can't have above a certain concentration venting to surface water from a contaminated site. So, usually you have your project lead who's kind of following up with the responsible party. I know in this case, who the responsible party was also one of the difficulties in this site. I know Mary mentioned that it was a long time since the monitoring wells had been tested, and that's because, and someone will have to remind me whether it's the township or the village is the responsible party who had operated the dump, but they essentially weren't really financially capable of kind of maintaining their responsibilities at a site that they're the liable party for, which is one of the reasons when residents brought this to us, we stepped in and started doing some of that investigation. So I know that kind of meandered, Sandy. I hope that addressed some of the questions you were bringing up.
That worked for me. I'm going to let Stacy's going to try it again and unmute her. I cannot hear you, but if you do sign language, we're getting closer. We can see you.
Mike suggested on the chat here, Stacy, that if you actually install Teams on your computer instead of using it through the internet browser, that it might fix that bug.
So Stacy, I'm going to move on and let Lynn talk while you figure it out. Lynn, are you there?
Yeah, thank you, Sandy. Yeah, I'm here. I should be.
Yes.
Yep. Okay, good. I'm getting this down. I'm having so much fun. All right. All right. When I first started investigating the tannery site in 2010, I remember talking to Luis Saldivia, who was in charge of the Water Resources Department. And he had mentioned that up until that time, there had been a multimedia coordinator for sites. And it made all the sense in the world to me that there is someone above the departments always trying to interweave them and connect them and look higher up and see how they interrelate. Because I don't think that sort of thing happens very well when each silo is all working on their own. And I'm just curious whether this was something that the remediation division, or not, I'm sorry, the offices in Grand Rapids, if the other main offices in Eagle also have a multimedia coordinator. I think he told me that had been disbanded, and I'm thinking, wow, did we ever need that for this multimedia event of the tannery demolition? Because it is very, very difficult to get 4 different departments together, let alone 4 people at the dinner table at the same time. So I just think that we need an Abby and others here from Andy. It's a question I have. That would be amazing to have a higher level person looking at these things from those angles. And then it seems to me there needs to be someone at the community level also trying to coordinate. Because you can have a lot of people who have good ideas and mean well and want to do well. They just don't know about each other. So that's a question I have, Abby, and I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah, we had multimedia coordinators for quite a few years. Those positions have kind of dissolved, but that's what we have in every district office is a regional coordinator for PFAS issues. It's kind of an unofficial position. They officially do that job, but they aren't getting paid extra for it. And so we have one in every district office. They kind of switch around who does it for us. But it is really specifically for PFAS issues for MPART. The multimedia coordinator was kind of doing it for all issues for all divisions within Eagle. And so we've kind of adapted that to fit it. So we do it more informally now than that formal position had. And there were issues with exactly why those couldn't continue like that, but they were floating positions that people would take on for a year or two, and then they would rotate them around the districts.
Well,
so
it certainly makes sense to have something a little more formalized, so that it shouldn't be like the citizen's burden to try to keep getting all these people together. These people should get together and talk about it. It affects like the surface water, and it affects, as Rick was bringing up. All of that is related.
Yeah, absolutely, Lynn, absolutely. And it's something we strive for every single day. We get people together every single day on different PFAS issues. And so every district office in the state has a monthly or more frequent PFAS meeting to discuss it with all the divisions, so they all know what's going on at their various sites. And so that's something that's been huge in trying to not only coordinate PFAS issues, but other issues that may come up at some of these high topic things. So we have the regional coordinators plus those site leads then gather as districts to discuss things. And then if the regional leads, we meet with the regional leads at the MPART level once a month, and all of that stuff gets filtered up. We try to filter it up and down, but there's a ton of work going on, but it is it was one of the things that I also asked for to bring back was those multimedia coordinators, because I thought they were important positions as well, so.
I think with a new legislature, I think, a lot of you on this call, some of you remember, I put myself in the older category here, but a lot of these things went awry. It did in Wolverine and Rockford territory in 1993, when Engler took office, and basically all the laws were like, I remember talking to someone at the DEQ who said we used to clean environmental sites, and now we manage risks at environmental sites. So it got all loosey-goosey and vague, and what are the risks, and it's all this guesswork. And I'm like, hey, we need to get back to where we actually have a coordinated attempt. And also to what Dan was saying, we've got to hold polluters accountable. We can't just rubber stamp inadequate permits. So,
Okay.
Yeah, okay, I'll get off my soapbox, Sandy, thank you.
All right. Well, we had bad music in 1993 too, so it was a bad few years here all the way around. Stacy, I'm going to give you one more time. Is your mic working?
No.
Nope. Stacy, I'm going to send you to Best Buy to get a new whatever.
This is Mary. I had sent Stacy a text that maybe she could call my phone and I could play it, that she could speak then to the group, but I don't know.
Looks like she's dialing
now. Oh, here she is.
Well, this is entertaining. We needed entertainment.
My goodness.
Okay. Can anybody hear her?
I tried to call in.
Oh. No, we're having a bad auditory hallucination.
Okay,
yes.
Hang on.
Stacy, mute your stuff on your end, Stacy, and see if that helps. Or actually, Mary, you've got to mute your computer and just use your phone to play the. Try it again, Stacy. Nope, that's not working. Sorry. Mike, help us out.
Okay, I think we should figure out how Stacy, Mary, Abby maybe can talk about this and figure out what to do, or Andy, and set up a meeting. Can we do that rather than us all? I mean, it's kind of comical to watch, but it's also getting late. And,
I know, but Stacy's probably going to throw her computer across the room, and we don't want to be responsible for that. So,
well, she could get a new one with a mic that works on or something. So, yeah. Okay. Okay. Are we meeting in December? Does anyone know? I know our Wolverine page doesn't.
Yeah, I was going to say, well, let's look at the date. What will be the date for December? That's going to be the 13th. Give me a thumbs up if you can make the 13th work. Well, either, so I've got 3 thumbs up here. How about, there's a little reactions button at the top of your screen. You can give me a virtual thumbs up. Okay. John says yes. Lynn, oh my gosh, you got your camera and your mic to work in one day? All right. So it sounds like, yes, we have overwhelming thumbs for the 13th. If you guys are good with that.
Yes. Okay.
Would you guys like, I can try to bring in some speakers to talk about the different divisions that Eagle has and do an overview of Eagle's different divisions and how it's laid out. Would that be helpful? Would you like some sort of a presentation for next month?
I think I personally would find it nice to know who's responsible for what. Doesn't need to be anything, long and tedious, but just a flow chart of, who do I call for this?
How about a pictogram?
That would, yeah. What do you guys think?
I think that would be useful, just generally, yes. And then specifically as it relates to, anything that we're talking about here, on a recurring basis. So, various rule structures, how the drinking water standards apply, how they work through the various protocols and, to Part 201 and so forth. stuff like that.
Well, I think even just doing a who does what program would be helpful. And then when various programs are applied with different divisions, I think that becomes even more confusing. So, yeah. Okay. We can definitely do that. I think that would probably be helpful, useful. Maybe we'll try to design it as a little cheat sheet so that it doesn't make your eyes bleed, but it's something that you can probably save for future use. Okay.
Any other topics we want on the agenda for the next meeting? Len, are you typing or are you?
No, I just want to just say one thing, Abby, because I'll forget. 2 sentences. I would like to have someone at that meeting who remembers what it was like to have a multimedia coordinator. Just whether it's you or someone else. That's a question I have about the value or not of that. That's it. All right, I'm done.
Well,
so when it'll depend on the district too. Some multimedia coordinators, just like every supervisor, some were more effective than others. Just because an office had one didn't mean that it worked out well. You've got all the different supervisors and you have one supervisor trying to get them to do things, sometimes good, sometimes not so good. I've been around a long time and I can tell you the good and the bad. So
yeah, who was
when
that?
it worked good, it worked good. And when it didn't, it was terrible. And maybe Abby, Grand Rapids was full of excellent people that were all A+ people. So everything always worked well there.
I see. Okay. Yeah. All right. Yeah. I'm glad I live near Grand Rapids then, huh?
Yes, you are actually.
Sandy. Yeah.
All right. Any other topics? Any other topics you'd like on the agenda for next month? Daniel's got his hand up. What you got, Daniel? You're on mute, dear. I know. Almost got through it.
Almost made it. Almost made it. It doesn't have to be for next month, but been a lot of stories and updates coming about various scientific studies on health effects. There was one that came out, I think it was late October, or maybe it was early October, about fertility issues on PFAS. So just some update about how maybe HHS is considering new studies as they come up, and how those get integrated into updates on protocols and so forth.
Okay, good.
All right. Okay. Anything else? At 7:30, we're going to get done early. Everybody go out and make a snowman then. Enjoy it. Cool. All right. Then I'll see you guys in a month.
Thank you, Sandy. Thank you, everybody.
All right. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Good night.
Good one.
Good job.